Well, hello, Endow ladies and those listening. I'm very, very happy today to be with Jennifer Baugh, who is the founder and executive director of Young Catholic Professionals. Welcome, Jennifer.
Thanks so much for having me.
I'm so happy to talk to you today, and we've been playing this for a little while. But if you haven't heard about Young Catholic Professionals, YCP, as it's often called, is an organization that's dedicated to bringing young professionals in their 20s and 30s to basically accompany each other in the faith, as I understand it. Right, Jennifer?
Absolutely.
All right. So before we kind of go into talking about YCP, because I definitely want to talk to you about YCP today and about Endow, um, tell me a little bit about your faith, because this is such a huge thing that you started with YCP. And I've gone to YCP events before I was even with Endow. So I wanted to hear your thoughts on just a little bit about your faith and your Catholic life.
Oh, absolutely. I am so grateful to be Catholic. I think about that often because not everybody is born into the Catholic faith. Some come to it, of course, through conversion. But I'm very thankful to be Catholic, and I do consider it a gift. When you think about the just richness of treasure that we have, I feel like we have so much at our disposal that we could really never complain. I mean, we have these sacraments, we have the saints that we can pull from and draw from. We have this incredible universal family across the world, such rich heritage, such amazing teaching, the Eucharist. So I think I'm really very grateful for my faith. It's been something that has been growing very much over time. And you mentioned YCP. In a sense, my faith has kind of grown with YCP. So I was what you could call a surface level Catholic, for a majority of my life. And it was really until I graduated from business school and had some time off before starting a job in Dallas, Texas, that I almost had, I call it like a quarter life crisis, where I really was just soul searching, trying to figure out who I was. And, I was finally done with schooling. I had just finished grad school. So it was kind of this waking up moment. And a lot of things were happening in my life at the time. But long story short, during that time off in between grad school and the job, I did have a pretty powerful experience where, I just had an outpouring of God's mercy and grace upon me. And it was really at that moment that I decided I wanted to be an authentic Catholic. And so that was the word I used, authentic. And so from there began just the beginning of I call a great adventure, where I started learning about the saints. Like I said, I started attending daily mass, reading the writings of Pope Benedict, at the time was Pope.
Wow.
And just diving in, and that led to the founding of YCP, a completely different career path.
Wow. Yeah. So when you were, my brain wants to go to 10 different things, but it's hard to pinpoint the Holy Spirit. Obviously, this was a work of the Holy Spirit that you did, like you had this encounter, this moment of like, I want to be an authentic Catholic. Was it something that you had learned, or was it that you identified, had a Catholic identity and just thought, I want to learn more and do this for real? It
was a little bit of both, because during this soul searching time, I did have the realization that I needed to ask God to help me get to know him. My prayer life was even kind of, I didn't even know how to pray at that time. And so I was saying, dear Lord, help teach me to pray. And I think if we ask God anything earnestly and enough, he will grant it to us, right? I mean, ask and ye shall receive.
Yeah, right.
And he answered my prayer, 100-fold, and especially through this moment of grace in my life. So obviously it was completely the Holy Spirit and God's grace, but I think on my part, I did have a sincere yearning and a sincere desire that I was pretty consistent with, and so I think it really, in our faith life, it requires both. I mean, obviously everything is a gift from God, but we have to be active participants.
So what would you say that it was, you had this gap time before, and that, maybe I'm being too dramatic, but there was a little bit of an existential crisis, like everything's coming together. I've got my MBA, I have this great job lined up. like, what is my life for?
Yeah. Oh, completely. Yeah.
That's awesome. And then was it during that time that the intuition of YCP came, or did you start working first, or how did that happen? Because it's to me, it's incredible. It's incredible to me that somebody like you would, well, first, the work of the Holy Spirit's so creative and amazing, and who can even describe it. But then also there's like, what you do is run young Catholic professionals. This is an idea that was born out of the Holy Spirit, that was born out of your continuing conversion. And it's very specific. It's all wrapped up in your personal vocation, that very thing that God's calling you to through YCP. So it's incredible to me. And I would love to hear more about that.
Yeah, you explained it perfectly. I mean, it was such an incredible time because I'm coming alive in my faith, and those of us who love our faith, we know it's not something you can just keep inside. You have to share it.
Yeah.
And so as I'm in Dallas, which is a city with tons of young professionals, I still have some time before starting my new job, my consulting job, and I'm sharing with people, just random people at restaurants and, at the gym,
Yes.
about sort of my faith. And what was so interesting to me was that, sure, there was a little bit of resistance, kind of like, this girl. But then people actually genuinely seemed interested in learning more and intrigued by my sense of joy and I think peace. And so that led me to believe that there had to be other young people like myself who were sort of restless. I very much was prior to this conversion experience, and who could use some grounding in faith and the support of community. And so that's sort of what got the wheels turning. I did start to go to some young adult ministries in Dallas, and many of them were well-meaning, but just happened to be poorly run, or not a lot of attendees. And so again, just coming from business school, I thought, there have to be young professionals like myself who are Catholic, who need support in living our faith in the world. So I did a lot of research like a good MBA grad would do, and didn't really find anything out there on a national scale or in an organized fashion like I envisioned. And so long story short, I put together a business plan, a focus group, had the first event. And then 8 months into my new job as a consultant, I said, I feel like God's calling me to this.
Wow.
So I quit with nothing lined up and devoted my full time to this effort. And here I am.
That's incredible, because as somebody who came also from the secular world into the Catholic world, Catholics who are savvy business-wise, running Catholic, is just a breath of fresh air, and that's no harsh criticism to, many of our administrators and parishes and whatnot, but they're not trained for that. So the fact that, and I think what you're speaking to is that you wanted to integrate your passion for business and business savviness with your faith. And then also, as you said, it's missionary, that there has to be other people like you who want, and especially in an American culture, which is very fragmented, want to live an integrated existence. I'm not like a Catholic after work, right? But throughout everything that I do. So it seems to me that one of YCP's goals is to evangelize that integration. We don't want to have to separate who we are as Catholics from how we approach everything in our life, including our jobs and our professions and so forth. So
totally. I mean, you mentioned the term Catholic identity earlier, and I think if we are Catholic, we have to believe that permeates absolutely everything we do. And so, from our day job, it has to inform the way that we do our work. And then as our servants, as we are servants to the church, because we love our church, we love our faith, we have to use our professional skills to ensure that we are working to further the faith as best as we can. For some reason, there is that disconnect where people think, I can approach ministry in a way that's a little bit more casual and relaxed, but in my day job, I can be very sort of detail oriented and focused on professionalism. But sort of when I go to church and I'm helping as a volunteer, it's okay if it's a little bit more fluid. And I think maybe it's the opposite, actually. If our faith is the most important thing, shouldn't we pay just as much attention to what we're doing for the faith?
Yes, especially because, I mean, I don't want to step on your point. You made it perfectly. But I mean, there was a period in history where, Catholics were the best, the university system, the scientific method, all these, we built Western civilization. That's something we can put on our Christian civil resume. And yet you're right. There is this kind of like lax attitude in Christian circles, in Catholic circles, that I think that needs to go away. So
I totally agree.
thank you for working toward that. And I also appreciate in the YCP events that I've gone to, where you do see a true diversity of people who are in different stages in their faith journey. And while that can maybe scandalize some people, I found it faith building, because everybody's on a journey. We're in different stages. And this is a place where clearly, and I've gone to several events in different cities, people feel welcome. And I appreciate that too.
Yeah, I think it is so interesting and important, because I mean, like we said, our faith is universal. So there are every type of person out there in our Catholic faith, and just in general, as we equip ourselves to be confident in having conversations with colleagues, I think the more practice that we have, the better. And so at YCP events, you're absolutely right. You'll have someone who hasn't been to Mass in 10 years sitting next to a former seminarian, and they are engaging in dialogue, and it's incredible. I mean, you really don't see that anywhere else. And the idea is that we all grow together, and we really center a lot of what we do on the virtues. And so the great thing about that is all of us can grow deeper in humility, prudence, courage. And so the virtues are just a tremendous sort of starting place, no matter where you are. But yes, tremendous diversity just in the faith, but also in sort of the professional spectrum. So
right.
We have every career industry represented. And it's really a kind of a beautiful thing to see just how rich, again, our faith is.
Yes, I love that. So for someone who Endow women in their 20s and 30s, and I love, there have been more and more Endow groups on college campuses, although that's been difficult this year because of Corona. So they've gone online, and all the various challenges that we all navigate as kind of weird time. But for somebody who doesn't know how the YCP kind of chapters work, tell me a little bit more about its outreach and what happens at a YCP meeting.
Yes, we're structured very much like a franchise. So if anybody's familiar with how that sort of framework works, we have a national office, and that's where we sort of establish our programming, we establish our quality, we provide support, marketing, resources, training, we gather everyone together, and we launch chapters across the country like franchisees. So at our chapters, we have set programming and events. And so we have really, really wonderful programs, from our executive speaker series, where we feature a successful executive who is devoutly Catholic, who shares sort of a real summons to live your faith boldly in the world with practical tips. Yeah. We also have panel discussions on the virtues, so time for small group discussion and large group discussion. We have St. Joseph Saturdays, which our patron is St. Joseph. And so just a wonderful chance to model his life and come together with the sacraments. We also offer networking happy hours, which again is just an important way for us to connect with each other.
I've been to a few of those. Those have been really fun.
I mean, as Catholics, we all love a good beverage.
Yeah.
And then we also have executive mentorship. So that's been a very rewarding program to pair together a Catholic executive and a young person and really facilitate that meaningful relationship is just so rewarding. We hear feedback about that all the time. We also are building up our career services program, which is great. We're just launching a new program called Forums, which is a kind of an accountability group where people can set goals together, and then with your peers, you can kind of work towards reaching them. So we have a whole bunch of other programs, about our.
That I even realized.
Yeah.
Incredible.
And then some spiritual resources online. We have a spiritual hotline, so we have some priests and nuns who are available to answer questions. So we really just try to provide kind of a balanced perspective of what a young Catholic professional in their 20s and 30s really needs at this stage. And it's both. It's faith resources, but it's also professional support, because, our slogan is working in witness for Christ. It's difficult to be a witness for Christ if you're not secure in your work, if you're struggling there. So that's why we really try to provide a balance of the two. And really overarching is just community. I mean, that's what we need to feel that sense of strength. And so that's what we provide.
I often felt as a high school teacher that I wanted to, and I actually recommended a lot of my students who have taught to the YCP.
Thank you.
Right, because of that, because I want them to be the best in their field. I want Catholics to be the best in their field, and also I didn't even really know about the mentorship program, and mentorship is like kind of where my heart and my brain and my is right now, especially as we kind of need each other more and more and more, as things kind of civilly become more distressing. Let's just put it that way. But the idea of, like, for example, my former students who wanted to become physicians or wanted to become businessmen, wanted to become lawyers, to pair them up with like Catholics who were in those professions that really could mentor them and help guide them and direct them. And especially because so much of our Catholic morals are threatened in the public square, how do they navigate that as professionals? So, sometimes they bring in, like, for example, the lawyers, the Alliance Defending Freedom or Bioethics Defense Fund to kind of meet those people. But YCP is another great avenue for young professionals who really need to know and see how it's done and how it can be handled and how to grow in virtue and to have an integrated, like, faith and work life. So that's really beautiful. Tell me, there's more there that I even knew about. Tell me a little bit about the conference that's coming up. Yes.
So you are one of our MCs, and we're so excited to have you.
Very happy.
It's going to be amazing. It's on St. Joseph. So I don't know if you all are familiar with the book, The Consecration to St. Joseph by Father Donald Calloway.
I did it this year, and Father Calloway, what a year he chose. I mean, kind of a prophet, right?
Oh, totally. I think it was totally divine intervention. But so that book is going to be the framework for our conference. We'll have amazing talks, amazing speakers like yourself. We actually have, I don't know if you saw this, that Jonathan Rumi, who's playing Jesus in The Chosen.
I did see it. I can't believe that. And you know what else is funny, Jennifer? My mom was neighborhood friends with his dad in Cairo. Isn't that cute?
What a small world. It's crazy.
It's a super small world. I don't know him personally, but it's adorable.
That's amazing. Yeah, so just amazing speakers. But also, one thing about the conference that I'm very excited about is this year in particular. Well, it's happening in 2021. We're having to postpone it. So the date is April 30th to May 2nd, 2021 in Dallas. Everyone is invited. And especially when you hear what I'm about to say, this year in particular, we're inviting all the generations because we want to actually facilitate networking between the young professional generation and sort of the seasoned, experienced Catholic generation. So that means that if you're in your 50s, 60s, 70s, we'd love for you to come and actually be a mentor to our young people in their 20s and 30s. We have some facilitated kind of formal opportunities where we're going to do that through kind of speed networking, but also small group mentorship. So it's going to be very, very powerful. We always have the sacraments, amazing priests. So I really hope we get a strong turnout.
I'm looking forward to it. It'll be my first time to Dallas.
Really?
Which is very strange. But I've actually never been to Dallas. I have a lot of family there. I can't wait to go. But I'm glad you mentioned that about all generations, because that was going to be my next question for endowment who are listening, who want to mentor the younger generations. They can then come, right?
Absolutely. Okay. Yes. And in fact, there will be opportunity for people in that age group to connect more deeply with one another as well. So I think if you have a real love for the faith, and if you understand that we need to pass it on to the next generation, and that you also realize the next generation is truly looking for your encouragement and your sort of guidance, this is a perfect opportunity for you. It's all about passing on the legacy of faith, and
Yeah,
here's a great avenue to do that.
and now the conference has become a great place of integration because we are a community of very diverse backgrounds, of ages, and we can't just stick to our own little age group and save
Mhm.
lives. I mean, we need to be single, married, consecrated, not, young, old, whatever, together helping each other. And you just don't know who you're
Exactly.
going to meet that's going to be that little, that game changer in your life. So I
Exactly.
I do love it. So if you're 20s and 30s, come and receive. 40s, 50s, 60s, right? Come and receive by giving, correct?
Exactly. And you'll be able to receive in just in
Exactly.
other ways as well. But our website is ycpconference.org. So you can go directly there and learn all about the conference. And, Texas is a good time. We like to celebrate here. So come treat yourself.
Yeah, that exactly. And the other thing that I wanted to mention was Catholic Women in Business just published an article about Endow and quoted one of our Endow women who has, lifelong business owner, very savvy lady who wrote to me after we did an Edith Stein study online this year, this past spring. And she said, I really wish that I had studied John Paul II's writings on the feminine genius and Edith
Mhm.
Stein when I was a working professional, because I could have kind of understood my feminine genius a little bit more. Oftentimes, femininity was seen as something weak in the workforce instead of something that was actually quite a strength in leadership and management. As a woman who's this awesome, awesome feminine genius, founded YCP, runs the show, this whole thing. What do you say to women who might feel that way, or how do you react to something like that?
I totally agree. I think the world tells us that, sort of as women in the workplace, we have to be hard, we have to be aggressive, we have to sort of hold our own and do what feels right to us, and all these sort of lies. But women are treasured, and for our uniqueness. And I think that the more we learn about the beautiful saints like Edith Stein, or those lovely writings from Saint John Paul II, that really encourages us. I think any woman who reads that feels this sense of hope, right? That,
Yeah.
I am called to so much, but in my special way. I think it's just very important, especially if you're a woman in leadership, because you're going to be pulled in so many directions. There will be temptations to pride, to sort of think that you have to be something that you're not, to please the world and not men, and not God, excuse me. I think that's the biggest temptation. And so we have to ground ourselves back in the truths of our faith, to remind ourselves of our guiding star and of the goal, the true goal, which is heaven. So I think it's amazing that you all provide that, such wonderful formation for your women. It's critical because, we're getting information from all different places. We need to be getting it from the truth.
Yes, exactly. And I think you would love this. We have such a cute photo because they go virtual, but all these female engineers meet at something crazy like 7:00 in the morning for an Endow group, virtually. And I just thought this is just so, so beautiful. I'm so Edith Stein-ish, that here are all these female engineers, right, who are meeting at 7:00 in the morning to study Edith Stein, to study John Paul II, to, like you said, to integrate. What does it mean to be a woman? What does it mean to be a Catholic? What does it mean to be an engineer? How are all these things integrated together? And so I have a lot of hope also that people who are involved with YCP would also see Endow as a helpful resource, that something that can continue to be a resource for the teaching of the church to inform them and to help them integrate the truths of their life, so that this woman, now she's retired, doesn't have to can put that young people immediately can put clarity to the fact that, as you say, that we're called to please God and not men. And what does that, and very specifically, and I was just talking to a friend this morning who for many of us who are faithful Catholics, the problem, we understand that there's sin and we want to avoid sin and we want to follow God's will, but within God's will, parceling through and discerning, what am I, like you said, specially uniquely called to do for God to be, not to be someone that I'm not, but to be who I am in the world. What does that look like? It's saying no to a lot of good things and yes to the God things. And I think that's also something that a lot formation, education, and encouragement, like you said, in community can really help with, and especially the mentorship.
Oh, totally. And that's why I do hope a lot of wonderful Endow women do come to the conference, because I think that'll be a natural sort of invitation for some of our young female members to join Endow groups, to start them, to get involved. I think just that sort of witness will be really important. So I'm hopeful for that. And one other thing you just said that made me think of when you asked me at the very beginning what my faith was like, something that's so important to me is my devotion to the Blessed Mother. So I pray the rosary every single day, and I've been doing that since 2017. And just when you think about sort of leadership and sort of what we as women, who we should emulate, I can't think of anyone more lovely and perfect than our Blessed Mother. I think it makes things so much more clear. We're called to be full of grace. We're called to be heroically patient, full of lively faith, heroic courage, trust in God. These are the virtues that we should seek to emulate in the workplace. And so I just wanted to share that is such an important part of my faith. And I think she's been a huge help to me in my role with YCP for sure.
I'm so glad you said that, because the rosary, I mean, it's the Endow study that's our newest Endow studies on the rosary. And, it was released, and then shortly thereafter, we were all quarantined. And so we decided to move online on the Feast of the Annunciation.
Oh, that's awesome.
I mean, it was as if, just planned out, and I love, and, for so many Christians and for so many Catholics, it seems like the weaker position that the rosary is like prayer. We always want to be activists and like do things, but actually there's nothing more powerful and efficacious than turning to Our Lady, turning to Saint Joseph, because that will kind of clear out, at least it has in my experience, all the sludge to see what is it now that God is asking me to do.
Exactly. Well, and the rosary is a weapon. I mean, we've heard that from St. Maximilian Kolbe, Louis de Montfort, so many different saints. The rosary is a tool for our time. And, we need her for our country. Like you said, our country is in a time of great unrest, and we need to pray for especially this election. Ask Our Lady, to the Mother of Mercy, be merciful upon us and help us have conversion of heart. I think that's wonderful that you're really focusing on her.
Well, and another, I have said, another providential thing that we just, at the Endow team, we're just smiling on, because really God's taking care of everything for us, is that the next study we're going to release is on Catholic social teaching. And there was no way we could have really known the lengths to which our civil society would be at such unrest, and needing the teachings of the church, the principles to help women in the church, to guide them on what are those Catholic principles, those sound philosophical and theological principles that can help form us and shape us, so that we can make those proper judgments in the public square. But this was the cool thing that I learned recently, was that whenever there is social unrest, Mary appears. So like Marian apparitions are actually connected to Catholic social teaching. So whenever Mary appears, I think she appeared like 100 times in France before the French Revolution, again, like she's appearing in all her femininity and all her perfection, all her beauty and all her gentleness, and pray, because all these things so that you are protected and guided during very difficult social and political times. So I just thought it was so beautiful. We didn't really think about that as a team, the rosary and Catholic social teaching, but wow, 2020. The consecration of St. Joseph, rosary, Catholic social, all these, and I'm sure you have those same kind of experiences that, running YCP, and that, really there is a plan. God has a plan behind all of this, and we just have to keep praying, keep being faithful, and
Totally.
being
My
more.
mom shared with me a few years ago a novena called the Surrender Novena
Oh,
by, you
love
know
it.
it?
I love it. I think it's my favorite novena. I really do.
Yeah, I mean, anyone listening should or watching should definitely check it out. It's by Father Dolindo, and at the end of each day's meditation, you say 10 times, "Oh Jesus, I surrender myself to you. Take care of everything."
I
And
love
I
it.
think that's what we need to do, right? Is just surrender, especially now when we see that we really are not in control. Um,
Yeah.
I think more than ever we need to say, Jesus, like that song, take the wheel.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned it. I'm going to link that Surrender
Oh,
Novena.
good.
I'll link it to this podcast and YouTube video, because I really do think you're right. I think that's the key. We don't
Mhm.
have to. We have to strive, but not so hard that we lose our faith and our trust in the fact that God's hand is in everything and working everything toward our good, which is the promise of Scripture. But do you know the writer of that? You probably know this, but just in case you don't, the priest that composed the Surrender Novena, Padre Pio, thought he was a saint.
Oh yeah, I
Yeah.
love that. I love that. He said something like the whole of paradise is in your soul or
Yes,
something.
yes,
Yeah,
that's right. Yep.
yeah,
I
so
just
amazing. I mean, and if Pio said that, then
You could trust him, you know.
can't argue.
I loved it before I knew that, and then when I found out Padre Pio said that, I thought, okay, that's it. I'm
I'm
in.
in.
Totally in. Well, Jennifer, this was such a delightful conversation. Is there anything else that you'd like to mention, or that our Endow women should know about YCP, or just anything you'd like to share? Because this has been really fruitful for me personally.
No, it's been a blessing as well, and I just want to say thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you also, Endow Women, for your witness, because I'm sure we've featured many of you as speakers in YCP or mentors, or just even in general as you've sort of witnessed to your faith, to the young people, because I think young people right now are craving that encouragement. Um, and it means so much. So I just want to thank you, Endow, for everything that you're doing, and hope to see a lot of you at the conference. Absolutely.
So yeah, I'll have to find all the Endow women somehow at the conference and like say hello to everybody.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
think it's going to be great. Thank you so much, Jennifer. And we'll link YCP. If you want to say the website again one more time, we'll link everything to this interview. But if you want to mention it just one more time before we say
Perfect.
goodbye.
I'll share two websites. So our general website is youngcatholicprofessionals.org. And then if you want to go to the conference site directly, you can just go to ycpconference.org. So those are some sites that you can check out, and we'd love for anyone to get involved.
Perfect. Thank you so much and have a beautiful afternoon.
Thank you so much, Simone.
Bye.